So first, just let me open with Chrome. Wait, put it here. Yes. So I've already shared the starter files for Unit 3 in the WhatsApp group. Please download that. And once I share my screen, then we will be starting with Unit 3 today. Okay, last Unity. That's the launched version. Continue. Why is that? Okay, it was not fully loaded. So I've created a new Unity project for the Unit 3, which is called Prototype 3. It is being saved in a separate folder for Unit 3, right? We have the PDF here. I will share the PDF as well. I don't think you guys have the PDF for Unit 3. Okay. So in Unit 3, we will be making a Mario-like game, and the main focus will be to have the sound and the visual effects. So probably we need to jump, and we will be avoiding obstacles while running. So we want to have some sound effects when we make the jump, and we will also look at a different kind of a sound effect when we hit an obstacle. Also, when we are hitting an obstacle, we would like to trigger a visual effect, which you can think of will relate to a explosion effect or something. So it is called particle effects in Unity, where we use small particle-like game objects and give them a texture and some movement so that it appears like a explosion effect or a fire effect or a rain effect or maybe something hitting some object. So we can play with that with the effects to give different views. So I've shared the lesson plan for Unit 3 in the WhatsApp group. The project is still loading. If it works, then it is fine. Otherwise, if you guys have any doubt until the project gets loaded, we can discuss that. So how many of you were able to finish Unit 1 and Unit 2? At least the classwork, if not the assignments. Because I think 5 or 6 people have shared their videos. Rajshekhar is done. Okay. Parnavi is also done. Okay, the project is loading now. Right. So I've created a new empty game, empty project. Okay. This is how it looks like for me. It's an empty game object, billing mode, scene, sample scene. So first of all, to start with, I'm just following the PDF over there. So we have to unzip these files, right? Prototype 3, this is my project which I created just now. So I got all these folders by default. And I need to unzip this. So I'll extract all, extract, right? And this is extracted. And this package, I need to save it in my, import this package in the Unity project which I've just created. Okay. So first I'll go to assets, then I'll go to import package, custom package, select the one which I just unzipped, which is basically Unit 3 starter files, Unity package. And we make sure that everything is selected. Okay, I'll go import. And once it is imported, we need to open the prototype 3 scene, and we can delete the sample scene or maybe just leave it as it is. There are some warning animation rig has import warning see import message. So the warnings are meant to be ignored, just like in real life. We'll do the same here. There is this AI navigation. How do I hide this? Right. Okay. So we have to open the prototype 3 scene. So I'll double click on this To open up the scene, this is what my scene looks like. It contains a nice background. Okay, and where is my camera? So if I click on camera and press F, I see it's on the other side. Yeah, correct. Okay, then yeah, this is my camera. That's why I'm getting this view. Right. Then directional light is there, ground is there, background. So what is background? Background is nothing but a sprite renderer. So basically, if you want to put up images or show up images, these are shown as sprites. So there is this sprite background town, and you can choose any other if you want, if you like. Okay. So now we move on to the second step, which is we have to so basically if I go here and maybe we can select any of the sprites. So if I change it to say this one, now it looks like this or this one, right? So basically the images needs to be converted into sprites for to get rendered in the Unity game engine. Okay, so I can choose. I think I'll choose the other one, which is. So I'll just make it small. I'll choose.
ये 3D built-in pipeline में बनाया था 3D built-in pipeline
Yes, yes. You have to use a 3D built-in pipeline.
3D built-in
If
pipeline
you
यही name
yes,
template इसी में ना
you have to use a 3D built-in pipeline for all of these units which we are doing in class. If you choose any other, then the custom packages that you import, they will not work. They will appear as a pink colored items because the rendering is different. So please use a 3D built-in pipeline only for these sessions. Okay, so now I have chosen this background. The next step is to add a player or a character in my scene. So I'll go to my course
What
library.
is that 3D printed? What is 3D printed
3D
pipeline?
3D built-in pipeline. So if you are
Oh,
creating a
3D
new
printed.
project, then you
Hmm.
have to choose a 3D built-in pipeline. So there are other
Okay,
pipelines.
okay, okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have
got it.
so for this the material needs to be compatible with that pipeline. So whatever material, if you are seeing a complete pink colored, dark pink color, that means
Mm-hmm.
there is a difference between the pipeline you are using and the material on which mm, the material is made for a different pipeline. So you need to change the material.
Okay, okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is fine. This background looks good for me. Next, I'll choose a character. First of all, I'll choose a farm character, simple farm and black, brown. Brown is my favorite color. Let's select a brown. This looks fine, but it is looking at the wall. We need to turn it to face it in this direction because our game should be player will be moving in this direction and jumping the obstacles, right? So I'll just turn it. So this is the y-axis. I will turn it about 90 degrees to face it in this direction. Right now it is good looking in that direction. Now we have to add a rigid body component to it. So maybe I'll just first of all rename it as player so that we are able to uh, identify it in the hierarchy. I'll save it. I'll add a rigid body component. So I'll select this, go to the inspector window and click on add component. I'll write rigid body and it is there. I'll not use 2D, I'll use 3D. Now it is fine. Then we have to add a box collider to it as well. So again, I will go to add components. I'll start writing box. There is a box collider and the size, I think, let's see how is the size. Size is not correct. So if you go to maybe this way, so this is my box collider size. So maybe I'll just increase it a bit. Okay, so I can go to isometric view to get a better view of my item or not. Yeah, this is fine. This thickness is also fine. Yes, that looks fine for me. Now, just like in all the previous units, we need to move the character. So we will create a new script, which will be called player controller, and I'll create a new folder. Create folder scripts in my assets folder. So all the folders we make are in the assets folder. In the scripts folder, I create a new script called player controller. Player controller. Now let it build. I'll open this in Visual Studio Code. Okay. Yes, I trust the authors because I am the author. So next step is to okay, right. So we will be starting with adding a force to the player so that we are able to make him jump. Right. It's the game is more like that dino game that we play when there is no internet. Okay, the dinosaur keep moving in the right direction, and you have to jump to avoid the obstacles. For that, we will first create a private rigid body component, rigid body, because to apply any sort of physics behavior, we have to work with the rigid body component of the game object. So I'll use player RB
But the
rigid
rigid
body.
body is already attached to this player, right? In the
No, no,
game,
I attach just now.
then why are we redefining this rigid body? What is the
No, no,
player
no.
RB?
So basically, in my player controller script, I'm defining a variable called player RB, which is of
Hmm.
type rigid body, because we want it to access. So for suppose we will be like, applying force on my player to make it jump, right? And not just we'll
Uh,
use transform.translate, because transform.translate
uh,
will not work here. I'll show you
uh,
how. So to get a
okay.
reference to that particular component of my object, game of my player, I am defining it a variable so that I can save it and use it in my script. Okay.
Okay, okay. Okay.
So basically now once I've defined this, I'm making it private, and I want to use it in the start. So first I'll show the behavior in start function. So I'll first of all get the reference of my actual game object. So if I do get component, this is a new thing, right? I'll just write in comments. So get the reference of the player rigid body component. So if you look at this hierarchy, we have added these components. So in every game object, there are multiple components which are attached, which you see in the inspector window, right? So all these components can be accessed through the script, right? Suppose I want to access the rigid body component, so I'll just basically attach a script to my player component and write get component, and I'll pass on the type. I'll see right like this, get component. Then I have to define what type of component I want. I will do rigid body, and I'll just get it right. So with this line, the rigid body component of the game object to which this script will be attached. So the name is player controller, and this script will be attached to this particular game object. Let me attach it right away. So I see it is attached, and here when I click on play, the rigid body components will get referenced in the script right here. Now we'll see, maybe just add a force. So now to add a force, I will always refer to my rigid body dot. I'll just do add force, and I have to provide the, if I do shift tab, or maybe just take my cursor on top of it, it takes vector 3 force and which force mode you want to, which force mode you want to apply it, right? So I want it in the upward direction. So I'll just do vector 3 dot up, and the amount should be, because force is a vector, so it should have a direction and a magnitude. So let's say 1000. I'm just following the script, and let me save it and see what happens in my actual game. Okay, so let me make it. I'll just save it. Script is attached. Now if I play, I should on the very first frame a force will be applied and it moves up. It moves up, then it should come down because it's a force. We are not changing the, and it is kind of shaking on the floor. Yeah. So it is behaving in a physics like manner, right? What if we have done the control through a upward arrow key? Then it will not have made sense. Because so if I press what like the up key, it should go up and it should come down. Basically, it's in play mode right now. So if I take it up, it will automatically come down. Or if I maybe move it in any direction, then it should also come down. Maybe I'll just move it here. So it will always come down because it's a rigid body of mass 1 kg and I'm applying a force on the very first frame or even before the first frame is called. So I think this force is fine. What if I increase the mass, say 80, and now if I make it jump, okay, it is shaking and it is falling now. Right, so let's give it a mass of an actual human, say 80 kgs, and let's see. We want to make the player jump on when I press the space bar, right? So let's do that. So basically, this is just for testing. We will not be using it here. So I'll just maybe comment this out, maybe just this line. And I want to capture the keyboard, make the player jump or jump, which means add a force. Add a force in upward direction with some magnitude.
Hello.
Magnitude. Hello, yes.
Yeah. Can we use the actually use the transform dot like
You can use the
post?
you can use transform dot move up, but then to bring it down, you have to press the down key, right?
No.
So if you
I think,
hmm,
no, I think the thing we use for transform component like transform dot and we uh, supply the vector to it. So like that way can we use that rigid body dot and
so you are trying to mimic the jumping behavior using the transform component, right?
no. It, like the way we access the rigid body component, I'm like saying like can we use that directly like rigid body dot add force vector 3 up like that can we use without like supplying it to the player RB get component rigid body
Rigid body. So rigid body is a class. See, if I click on rigid body, it's a complete class. Which so now it's a component which is attached to my player object, game player object, right? So
yeah
to access
even
this particular rigid body component, we need to have a reference. We have to save it somewhere, right? Or you can directly do this get component dot apply instead of player RB. You can write this whole thing here. That will also
even
work.
transform was also a class, right? Transform dot we use
Ah, yes,
transform dot
yes,
then can we use
yes,
like
yes, yes.
rigid body dot like add force vector 3 up multiply with by 1000 can we use like that
So you are
like we
saying, so you're saying like this, if I do this game object dot rigid body, rigid now see there is no by default rigid body because rigid body is something we add separately on a game object. It's not the default property of a game object, right? But transform, even if you create an empty game object, you will get the transform by default. So this is the by default property which comes attached. We cannot attach a separate transform. I cannot attach a transform. See, the rect transform is for the UI panels, the 2D things. So by default, only transform is getting attached when you create a rigid body or whenever you place anything in the game in the Unity scene. So only transform is accessible, but you cannot access a rigid body, right? What if this component does not have a rigid body, and they provide a function, okay, background dot transform dot rigid body, then it will be an error, no? So all the components that users or like developers are adding, they are accessed by this get component call. It is also a defined function within Unity only. See, it's a predefined function which is part of this class component. So there is something called component, which is a class, and there are multiple methods which are defined for you to access different type of components, right? So we cannot use this rigid body thing. So transform dot rigid body, this will not work. It is not available only.
okay
Let okay, right. So apply on spacebar on pressing spacebar. Pressing spacebar. Right. So now, first of all, I want to capture my spacebar input. So what do you do for that? If right, if uh, input dot get key down, get key down, and the key is key code dot space. I think this one. Okay, so if I'm pressing the space bar, then what I want to do, I want to apply this force. Right, let's see if this works. And let me create a variable for my force. Right, and let me define a variable. Let's do a impulse force. We will do force mode as impulse. Right. So I hope you guys are aware what an impulse force is. So suppose you are doing this wrist fighting. What do you call it? Arm wrestling. So you are applying a constant force onto the opponent's hand. When you're pushing something, you are applying a constant force, right? But when you throw a ball up, when it comes down, the force applied on the ground when the ball falls on it, it's an impulsive force, right? So basically, there is a huge amount of momentum transfer in a very short span of time. So that type of force is called an impulse force. So if you jump, so you're applying a huge amount of force on the ground for a very small point of time. While walking, you are applying your force is equal to your weight constantly, right? So there is no impulse. So that's why even a small let's add a force. Let's see, make it public so that we can play with the magnitude of the force. So let's public float force mag. Okay, and maybe let's define it to say 100 for now, and maybe instead of multiplying by 10, let's do it force mag, and let's see how this works, because this will be visible in my. So what we have done, we have defined a variable to capture the amount of the magnitude of force that needs to be applied, and we have made it public so that we can see it in the inspector window of Unity, and we can play around with it to see whichever works fine, the best for us, just like Mario. Then in the very start of my game, I'm capturing the reference of the rigid body of the player into this variable. Then in the update loop, I am capturing whenever I press the spacebar, I am making this applying this force which is of type impulse, and this is the magnitude. So in the upward direction, there is a force of say 100 newtons acting on my body. Okay, let's see how this works now. Okay, so if I click on play, let me save it, and when I press the spacebar, it should jump. See, it is jumping very small. Why? Because my players, if I click on my player, the mass is 80. If I do the mass as 10 and now press the spacebar, it will go move up, right? And it is coming slowly as if he was in moon. And it now see, even after he has fallen, he can still the force can still be applied. Okay. So now let me keep the mass at say 80, and let me play around with the force magnitude. Let's make it 1000 and see how this works now. Okay, this is fine, but I think it is taking a lot of time. Okay, he is able to stand now. Not okay. So the force looks fine because the jump behavior looks good only, but it is taking a lot of time to come back, like as if he was jumping on moon. So let me keep this as 1000, and let me keep the mass as 80. And there is something called gravity that we can play around with. Okay, so in the rigid body, use gravity is checked, and interpolate is also fine. Constraints. So let's do constraints. You can do it later. Okay, so now let's play around with gravity a bit so that the motion is almost as good as uh, the player is jumping on Earth. So what I'll do is I'll go to my player controller script. I'll create a public variable, public float, and we'll call it say gravity modifier. So basically just a constant number or which can be multiplied to the gravity so that we get a functional gravity thing. Let's call it some number. Uh, mm, Maybe say 1.5 or what's it? Let's keep it 1.5 f. Okay, and where I want to. So basically, when I hit the play button in Unity, I want this new gravity to take effect. And the gravity is part of the physics thing. So there is a overall class, the bigger class called physics. From there, I can select dot gravity, and I can multiply it by whatever the gravity was, physics dot gravity. multiply it by my gravity modifier, right? So now this is my new physics, gravity, right? And let's see, we can play around with this, and let's call it force magnitude. Instead of this, let's call it jump force, so that it matches with the PDF description. Let's call it jump force, and let's see, we'll go back and click on play. First we will save it. Let's save it, click on play, and see how this works. So remember the previous jumping behavior, this is not working. So he's just moving a bit. Okay, if I go to my player again, I can hide the animator. Okay, player controller, jump force is still 100. Let's make it 1000. Now let's see. Yeah, this is fine. And gravity modifier is 1.5. And I'm able to jump multiple times. So it is like whenever I press F, press the space bar, it is applying a force to my rigid body. See, if I now, let me just give you this look. And if I click here once, twice, so basically it's kind of a cheat code I can use. I don't know if you've played Mario, but there was a cheat, some of the versions of Mario where you could do this. So from the start of the game, you can start jumping, 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 and you can reach the end goal in the air only. So there is no uh, risk, or there is no fun exactly to uh, kill the ducks and turtles and jump over the obstacles. So let's fix the force to be 1000. Jump force is 1000. Gravity modifier is also this one, but this is also not. Maybe we can make it 2, and let's try with this. If I make it 2, whether the behavior is fine or not. So if I make it 2, yeah, a little bit better, but this guy is fall. I'm still able to do the double jump thing. Now I'm going to fall. Yeah, there it goes. Let me try. Okay, you cannot come back from there. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to check. We want to check the player. Basically, we want to avoid the double jumping thing. So when my player is on the in the air, it should not jump. The jump thing should not work. So to do that, we can create a new variable of type bool. Okay, so I'm in my player controller script, and I create a new variable called, say, make it public. Not, yeah, let's make it public, and it is going to be of type bool. Bool is a variable which holds a 0 and 1, or true or false value. That's it. Is on ground, right? And is on ground. Let's make it true, for because by default when a game is starting, my player is already on the ground. And in the update function, what I can do is I can check uh, if the spacebar is pressed and my player is on ground, and is on ground is on ground, then only do this, right? And how to make it false? So basically, whenever my collider, or my player's collider collides with the ground, that means at that point I have to make it is on ground true, otherwise it is false. Okay, so basically once I press the spacebar and my player is on the ground, I will make the player jump and I will set it to false, because it will be in air. This ground is equal to false. Okay, and whenever my player lands, so I'll do a private on collision enter. Or I'll just write on collision enter, on collision enter, right? I'll do collision. Okay, and I'll just write, basically it needs to be private and void. Void is not taking private. Private void on collision enter. Okay, and this will not be inside update because it's a separate function itself. So just like the previous unit where we were using the on collision enter function to detect the collision between the food item and the animal, here we are using it to check whether my player has landed. Okay, on collision enter, and there I want to do what is on ground to be true. Is on ground is equal to true. Okay, so this will check if the player collider hits the ground. Okay, if this is fine, then we should not be able to double jump now. Okay, this is not required anymore. I'll just remove this, and this is also fine. Right, I'll go back to my game and let's see.
Do we have to add like collider to the ground too for
I think the
detection?
ground already has a collider. Yeah, it already has a collider, box
Okay.
collider. Yeah, but it's a good question. If it was not there, then you have to add. Okay, because you need two colliders to collide with each other, right? So let's see. Good question. So now if I click, it should jumping, and if I see, I'm not able to double jump now. So if I click on my player and I see my is on ground variable, you look at here. If I press now spacebar, it is false, and it is only true when I land on the ground. See, it is now false, and it true becomes true. So basically, when I'm on the air, I'm pressing the spacebar. It is not jumping. So that's a good behavior. Nice. Okay. Right. So now we will have to add some obstacles which will be moving towards my player. So the illusion would be as if my player is moving towards the right and it is crossing obstacles as they come in his way. But it will be the other way around. The obstacles will be moving towards the left. So what I'll do is let's keep an obstacle. We'll go to my course library, obstacles. We'll choose some nice obstacle. Tree, stone wall, spool, barrier. Barrier looks fine. Or a boulder. Yeah, boulder. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, cool then. So this is my obstacle. I'll just rename it. You can choose whatever you like. I can obstacle, right? And let's place it here. That's fine. Okay. So now I can add. Let's add a new script which will make the obstacle move towards the left because I want my obstacle to move like this, maybe only in the left direction, right? So let's keep it here and I'll go to my assets scripts folder. I create a new script called move left, right? Move left. Okay. So if I click on my obstacle, the left direction is this one. Okay, cool. So I'll just open my move left script and basically it requires nothing. I just wanted to, this thing will be attached to my obstacle. So I can directly do transform dot translate and it should be vector. I want to make it move in the vector 3 dot left direction by the amount of what say time dot delta time and I should multiply it by speed just like we did in the last class, but speed is not defined. That's why I'm seeing a curly line. So let's define it. Either you can hover over it, quick fix, and it will do generate a field for you, or you can do it yourself. So it see vector 3 speed, but it is not a vector 3. It is going to be a float. And let me do it say 10 and make it public so that I can see it in the inspector and change it if required. So let's make it public. Okay, now I'll go back, attach this script to my obstacle, and then we'll see. Okay, so obstacle, let me attach move left to this and the speed is this. It should go left when I click hit on play. Why? Because in the update function, which will be called every frame, this thing will act and here the transform means on which this script is attached. It is attached to my obstacle, then it should start moving towards left. If I click play, then it goes left and it is going to hit my player, I think so. Or not, it will not hit. Yeah, it will not hit because there is no rigid body attached to my Yeah. So we have to also attach a rigid body so that if it is not hitting my player, there is no point. No. So rigid body, they'll make it the mass to be say 10. And first, let's add a box collider because we want to capture the collision as well. Box collider. Let me see where the box collider is. Okay, it is nicely fitting. Nice. The size is correct. This is good. Now again, if I save it and if I play, then it should hit my player and my player should I can avoid or let's not avoid. Oh yeah. Now see the why this is happening because the stone or the obstacle is of just 10 kgs and my player is of 80 kgs, right? So based on physics, it will not be. And the what do you say? Speed is 10. Even if you multiply both of these, say 10, 10, 100. So the momentum is what 10, 100, right? And the change in momentum, the force applied will is not sufficient enough to make it move. So what if I make it 100? Let's see if it is going to uh, roll over my player or not. Oh no! Okay, that's bad. Okay, good. So let's keep it at 10 only. This is fine. There's a collider. It has a script. It is moving. But now I want to spawn it randomly, right? Just like we did in the last game as well. So I'll just make a prefabs folder. I want to save this thing as a prefab folder called prefabs. I'll save drag and drop obstacle over here. I want to create an original prefab, right? And this is good. Now what I want to do is I want to actually spawn it using a spawn manager, just like we did in the last game. And one more thing, if you look at the game, my game does not look as if the things are moving, only the stone is moving, right? So what I can do is in my background also I can apply the move left script so that my background is also moving left. So it will appear as if I'm moving forward. Let's see. So I'll just go to my scripts, move left, I'll attach it over here and let's see how does this work. Now it looks fine, right? But now my this is moving. If I jump now, okay, fine, okay, and this is it. So now it is looking fine as of now. So if I play it again, I can actually avoid the obstacle by jumping over it. So I can jump and I can avoid. Nice. Okay. So now next, what you want to do is you want to create a uh, yes, we will be creating a spawn manager just like we did in the last class, last game. So we'll create a new empty game object. We'll call it spawn manager, or you can call it your obstacle manager, whatever you want. And we want to create a new obstacle, a new script. So I'll create a new C# script, which will again be called a spawn manager. And we would like to spawn something. So first of all, let's take the public game object prefab or like obstacle prefab. We should start from a small case letter obstacle prefab, or you can call it whatever you like. And then we want to spawn it. Let's spawn it in the start function for the first. Let's just try it out. Instantiate. And what do you want to instantiate? We want to instantiate my obstacle prefab. Obstacle prefab at what location? It has to be a spawn position. So let's also define a spawn position. So public vector 3 spawn pos, and let's keep it say what new vector 3, and let's keep it at x is equal to 25, 0 and 0. So I can spawn it at spawn pos, and the rotation should be transform dot rotation. Basically, what is the rotation of my game object? Yes, any
I had
questions?
a doubt. Yeah. So,
Okay.
My game window is not showing anything, and it's not showing any error, but it's like fully blank.
Just click on your camera and see and press F, see where your camera is. I think so. Is
The
it showing like this
camera is
view?
fine.
This is being shown.
Yeah,
So
this is being
you just
shown.
have to move your camera. That's it.
No,
You
but
see
my
all these
main
objects now.
camera is showing the objects. My main camera, that small main camera box is showing the objects, but my game window is showing that blank screen you showed before.
Just check whether it is like free aspect over here, and you have chosen display 1. If you choose display 2, there is nothing on display 2. See, this is. Are you seeing this? Display 6, no camera is
No, no.
rendering.
No, I'm seeing a
You're not seeing that.
horizon and a gray plane. Yeah.
That means you're seeing this, right?
Yeah, but my main
हाँ,
camera, that box in the top panel is showing the player and the background and everything. I'll
here,
screen
there's
share
this
and
small
show.
window. Yeah,
Yeah,
please do that.
yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, can you see?
Yeah, it's coming up. Click on the camera once.
Okay, camera is selected. Yeah.
And press F.
I pressed F. Yeah.
Okay, just go a bit back. Maybe do right click and press the S key. S for Singapore key. Press the key and come back. Rotate. I want to see where your viewport is. Maybe move the
This.
camera left and right. Move the camera left and
Yeah.
right. Display 1. Okay. Okay, but the game window is not changing. Play focus, display 1 game. Is it everything is same as mine? Stats, space bars. Why is that? Maybe restart. Try just save everything and restart your Unity. Is there anything on the console? Nothing is on there on the console. Very
Nothing is on
strange.
the console.
Background is
Yeah.
background is skybox. Every culling mask is everything. Perspective vertical. Near 0.3. Far is this one. Depth is
Maybe play
-1.
once. Play once and see.
Even
Click.
even in playing game is nothing showing nothing. So even I put the script for to make it jump, it's not jumping. Even with
Click
spacebar,
click on the
without
click
space.
on click on the game window. Game
Yeah.
window.
Click.
And now press the spacebar.
I'm pressing. Nothing is happening. Even though the code is there, like I wrote the code, it's there, but
Okay. Did you attach the script to the player? But anyway, you're not
I
able to see it. Maybe just
uh,
restart Unity once. This is strange.
I'll do that once in that.
You only have one camera there. It's not like you have two cameras. Why does it have a? Okay, maybe for. Okay. Restart Unity and then let us know. Okay, we'll continue in the
Okay.
meanwhile.
Cool. I'll stop. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we were creating the spawn manager script and we created two variables, one to capture what object to spawn, basically my obstacle, and where to spawn, basically the spawn position. And in the start function, I'm writing instantiate at this particular position at this particular rotation. This rotation is the rotation of my spawn manager, basically 0, 0, 0, right? Because my spawn manager rotation is 0, 0, 0. This one. Okay, let me make it 0. Okay, so let's see if this works. Let me save the file and we go back to Unity. Let it. So let me move this. Maybe just move this one to but some other location so that we can see two obstacles spawning. So one is this one and the other one is the one which will be spawned. If I click on play, it will spawn only once. Okay, where did it go? It did not spawn, kya? Okay, why? Because I've not attached the script to the spawn manager. So let me attach it. Now it will spawn. And where is this particular position actually? if my obstacle is here and this is say 7 7, we are spawning at 25. That will get spawned at this. Let me do a 25 here. 2500 is this one. Let's make it say 20 should be fine, or 18 should be fine. So let me change it to 18 and save it so that we can see it in the scene game window. Okay, and I'll move this slightly away so that we can see both the obstacles spawning. It will spawn only once because it's there in the start function, not in the update function. So it spawned. Okay, now see there is an error. It did not spawn. What is the error? Because I have not assigned an actual object to the script. So spawn manager in obstacle prefab, nothing is there. So I have to go to my prefabs and drag and drop obstacle to make it spawn. So the unassigned reference means you have defined a variable, you are using it in the script somewhere, but there is no actual object attached to that variable, right? So you have just defined the name of the variable and the type, but nothing is actually there. So this error typically means that you are missing a reference. If I click play, it should work now. So okay, yeah, it spawned, but it went down. Did you see that? So my obstacle is at a height, right? Is at a height, and if you just observe closely, the obstacle will get spawned, but it will fall through the floor because the spawn position y is 0. So if I make the y of this thing to be 0, then it is almost halfway through the floor, and because it has a rigid body and it has physics working on it, so it will fall down. See, like this. Let's see both. Now this will also fall and the other will also fall. See, this one and this one, they both fell. So what we need to do is maybe give it some height, say 1.6, 1.5. Let's keep it at 1.5 and give it the same height over here, 1.5 f. So wherever you are writing decimal, you need to pass f. Okay, now it should work fine, hopefully. If I click on play, this will start moving towards the left, and there is one more which is spawned somewhere here. Okay, still not happening. Why? Spawn position, spawn position, spawn position. Okay, new vector. This is x, this is y. Y was not 0.5, but y? Because I think it's still spawned at 0, right? So spawn position x is this, y is f. Let me save it and let's run it again. It is falling down. So maybe 1.5 is not good enough. Then why this is not falling? We are spawning at 18. 18 is on the floor only, and it is okay. This is not saved. Yeah. Spawn manager. Okay, yeah. Because I changed my vector 3 over here. But as we know, whatever values you provide in the inspector will override. So basically, it is still taking 2500. So what I'll do is I'll do 18 and I'll do 1.5, and that's it. It will work fine now. So just make sure we make it public initially. See, it is now spawning. Now both of them are piling up against the player, and this is working. Good. So we have our basic functionality done, and we just have to now make it repeat it at a specific interval, just like we did in the last time, right? Invoke repeating. So I don't need this anymore. I do need this. These values are fine. So what I can do is I can go to my spawn manager script again. This is my spawn manager script. I can create two variables and let me make it say private now because this thing is sorted. The place at which it is spawning, this is fine for me, right? And the public game object, this is also fine. Now I want to make a public float. What do you call the start interval? Start delay. Let's call it start delay, just like the last game, and let's call it say 2 seconds. 2, and let's make a public float repeat interval, repeat rate, or maybe interval. Let's call it rate. let this also 2. And instead of doing this, what I can do is I can create a new function which is doing essentially this. So what I'll do is I'll just like we had spawn random animal function, I can create a void spawn obstacle, make it a method, and just what we'll do, it will just instantiate this whenever you call this, right? So I'll just paste it inside this, just this single line. Okay, and this is a light yellow because there are no references. This is not being called anywhere, right? I don't know if you have this on top of your VS code, but this will give you hint or like an idea where this function is called, how many times it is being called. So I want to call it over here. I will do invoke repeating. I'll pass the function name. The function is spawn, basically just copy it, and then I want to pass what start delay and the repeat interval, repeat rate, right? Then it should work. Okay, let's test it out. So it should keep spawning at after every 2 seconds. So let me click play. So my obstacles are spawning 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Awesome. Okay, but the background is finishing after some point. So we have to maybe deal that so that it gives a feeling that I'm continuously moving without that sort of my background being moved against me. Okay, so to fix that, what we need to do is we have to create a script which will keep on repeating my background. Okay, so basically once my background reaches at this point, I will again quickly repeat it. So it will look like my there is a continuous background movement. Okay, so for that, what I'll do is I'll create a new script. I'll go to my scripts folder, create a new script, create C# script. Let's call it repeat background. Okay, let it open. Okay, so what we want to do is, if you look closely, my background, okay, yeah. So my background basically is it's a image pasted twice, right? So if you look at up to this point, maybe make it a bit bigger if I can. So if you look at this region, it is the whole image and it is being repeated over here. So basically, we can use any image which has this kind of a cyclic feature or like this continuity feature so that it will not look like as if we are moving the image. So if so basically, I think at the very center. So this is the point where it starts to repeat itself. See, there's a small tree, then this tree, it is repeating itself. So we can actually make it, so once it reaches at this point, the center point, I can shift it back so that it looks like it is going in cycles or it is continuously moving. Okay, so now we will do that same replicate this behavior through the script, right? So I'll just open my repeat background script and I want to create a start position, like I want to create a variable to hold my start position. So I'll create, say, private vector 3 start pos, and in the very start I want to hold the original position of my background. So what I'll do is I'll do start pos and I'll just use transform dot position. So basically during the whenever my game starts, before starting my game, what was my position, you store that in this variable, right? And then what you want to do is say if I want to test, so I'll just write it out. So check whether the background has crossed half of itself, whether the background has crossed the by half, crossed the half of itself. Yeah, I don't know if it makes sense. Half of itself. So what I'm trying to say is we have to check whether my background has all finished up to this point, because this is the place where the new the second iteration of the background starts. So this is, if I switch my background at this point, it will go completely unnoticed, where like whether we are using a continuous background or we are making a single repeating image, and we are repeating that over the time. Okay, so this is the background, and let's say, so basically I want to keep a check on the X position. So if this is my background, this is the X position. So if I make it default is say 41.75, is it? Or maybe if I make it, no, maybe let's make it 50. Background, I make it 50. Yeah. Okay. This is here. Let's make it 50. Right. So if my this is my start position and it moves in the direction, in this direction by say 50, or okay, 0 comes here. If I make it 0, yeah, this is the point, then we should start repeating itself. Okay, so let me just make it go back, and we will check whether if the transform, and here the transform is dot position dot x becomes less than, because this direction is negative x. So if I'm moving in this direction, that means my x is decreasing. Okay, so it becomes less than what my start position was, start position dot x minus 50. So basically, if I am maybe goes beyond, say, at this particular point, whenever it reaches this particular point, what I want to do is I want to make it make this position equal to the start position. So basically, I will reset its position. I'll do transform dot position is equal to start position. That's it. Let's see this in action. But first of all, we have to attach the script to my background game object. Is my game, the script is not attached. I'll do repeat background. Let's attach it over here. This should be fine, and let's see how this works. Maybe first of all do do a control Z. Oh shit, गलत कर दिया क्या? नहीं. So maybe I'll just move the background back to say 50, and that's it. If I now run, it should just focus on the background for some time and see how it behaves. Yeah, see, it is moving by the speed of 10. Obstacles are generating, and as soon as it, see, in the, if you look at the game window, you will never see it is getting resetted. But if you look at the scene window, then only you can get an idea that it is being reset. Okay, no, in the ground also you get a feeling that it's being reset, or not. I don't think so. See, it is moving. Okay, yeah, there is a feeling that it is getting reset. But why so? Maybe we have to play with the position a bit.
Can give a new image.
Yeah. So basically, we have to do it at the exact half of my bed.
Do it 45, Vinay, I think. Instead of
Is it?
50, you set the initial position to be 50, right? Let it be 45.
But given my image, it is actually repeating at the half of its width. So why don't we just use that? So I can get this component, get the bounds or maybe the box collider and get the half of it. That should work. That basically that's the second step. So we need to attach a box collider. So because this thing, we have to keep playing with numbers. So what if I move my background a bit towards the left? Now if I click on play, then it will be a different behavior, because I'm just checking whether my x minus 50 is greater than, it goes and repeats. It is quite visible, and my player is holding off 3 rocks. Now he is fallen. So the correct way would be to actually do that. Let's attach, to get the bounds, of course. We have to attach a box collider for any kind of game object when we want to talk about the bounds. So let's attach a box collider, right? And I think it is correctly, yeah, It is coming up nicely. That's the box collider. Awesome. So now what can I do in my script is that I can create. So this is a specific variable. We are testing it out. So let's create a variable. Make it private float repeat width. Okay. And what can I do is in the start function, I can get it. So basically in the start function, before my game starts, I want to capture the exact value of this thing. So which should be repeat width should be equal to, I will get the component dot box collider. No. Component of type box collider. Right. And why this thing will get me the box collider? Because this script is attached to the background, this game object. So the box collider component will be fetched from this component. Okay. And from this, what I can, what is the, because it's a box collider, I can get the size. And in the size, I can get the X component of that, and I can divide that by 2. That's it. So instead of that, I can use my repeat width, and it should work all the time. So what it is saying is that wherever my transform position of my background, it has become less than the. So basically, it has moved exactly half of my width. Then you repeat it. That's what we want, right? So let me see if this fixes the problem or not. So let us see. So for in the scene window, we should be able to see it correctly, but in the game window, it should appear as if the background is continuously moving. Are awesome. So there is no lag here now. See, it is exactly moving, and there is no glitch or there is no shift when the. Okay, nice. So this is fixed now. So what we can do is, okay. So now we want to add one more feature. Suppose my object, my if my player is actually hitting any obstacle, I want to trigger the message the game is over. Okay. So for doing that, what we can do is we can actually we already captured that in the last game as well. We'll do it again. So I'll go to my player controller, and basically we have this on collision enter, and we have this collision object. So instead of directly just doing this, what I can do is I can do two conditions. So if uh, the collision dot game object dot compare tag. So basically, this thing collision means the object which is getting collided to my player, right? And the game object and dot compare tag. So I can compare the tag. So there are two things. Let me show. So if you have this thing of ground, so the name is ground, and you can attach a tag as well. Okay. So you can query. So there can be like say hundreds of game objects in your scene, but you can some could be tagged as obstacle, some could be tagged as a health food, or you can say some other property that you want to record the behavior of. Okay, so you can attach a tag. So let me just create a new tag, add tag, and this is empty. I can add the tag is ground, so I can query it from the script, right? So if I go to ground again, and I can tag it as ground, right? And I can tag my, let me spawn my obstacles for a second. Where is my obstacle prefabs? My obstacle, and let me attach a tag to it so that I can, you can actually do it with the name as well, but the better way to do a tag. So I can create a new tag, which is called obstacle. I'll save it. I again choose my game, and I'll choose a game object called obstacles, and I'll assign a tag called obstacle. Then this is a prefab. I want to reflect these changes in all the prefabs. So I'll just do override, apply all, and maybe then I can remove it from here. And let's test if I spawn this. There is a obstacle. Yeah, tag is there. Awesome. Right. So this is, and we can compare this tag to trigger action. So basically, it is just checking whether the tag is what. So if my game object tag is ground, that means it is landing on the ground. then what I need to do is I need to just do is on ground to be true, just like the previous time. And if else if the same thing, I'll just copy paste is obstacle, then I want to print obstacle. Please be sure of the spellings. Okay. So then I want to do is I want to do maybe debug dot log game over. Okay. Right. And the a more logical way would be to create a variable called public bool. You can make it private, but let's make it public for now. Public bool game over is game over, and we can make it false from the start, and we can make it true. We can make it true here is game over. Let's make it true, and what we can do is we can I'll show how are we going to use this variable to trigger some effects in my game. Okay, suppose my game gets over, my player should not move, my background should not move, no obstacle should be spawned. So we can use this variable to perform all those actions. First of all, what we have done right now is if I'm on the ground, then is ground will be true, my player will keep on jumping. As soon as my player hits an obstacle, any object which has the tag of obstacle, it will print game over, and this thing will become true, right? So what we will do is I'll just test it out once. So let me select my player variable. I'll just hide all of this. So basically, is on ground true will get changed when I'm in the air, and this thing will become true once I hit an obstacle. Okay, and I'll see a message over here. Okay, so let's play. See, this thing is on ground is true. When I jump, this thing becomes false, and I jump again. Fine, I jump again. Is game over is not there. Now I'll not jump. Let's see, is game over. See, is game over. And I see a message, game over. Right? But everything is still moving. My obstacles are still spawning. There is no point of spawning, right? So let's use that to actually uh, stop my obstacles from moving, my backgrounds from moving, and I should not be able to jump. So if you see again, even after game over, my player is able to jump. See, I'll not jump right now, and I'll hit, and now I can jump. See, it says game over. Game over is true over here, but everything is still working, right? So how can I fix this thing? So I'll go to what I need to do is my spawn manager should stop spawning, or my right, it should not spawn my objects whenever the game gets over, or basically this particular flag becomes true. Then spawn manager should not spawn the obstacles, and my background, basically my script called move left, this should also stop working when the game is over, right? So let's do this first. So move left, we have given this particular, so in the update function, we have written, so basically this is moving my background and my obstacles to the left, right? So what I can do is I can create a variable. Now this is a really important thing, or the most valuable thing you will learn. So what I want is I want to capture this particular variable which is in a separate script, this variable, and we have made it public. This is part of the player controller script, and I want to capture what is the value of this variable in this other script. So what can I do is get reference of the some other script. So like we created this variable, we created this rigid body over here, we created a game object over here. All these are classes, and my player controller is also a class, public class player controller. So what I can do is I can create a variable of type player controller. So I'll do private of what type I want, player controller. See, it will appear over here, player controller. Really bad with spellings, player controller. See, and I can call it script just to differentiate. Like it's the script called player controller. Right now I can get its reference in the start function. Okay, so in the start function I will get the reference of this thing from my player controller. So what I'll do is I can just write script player controller and I want to get the component. So I can do get component directly, but this get component directly will not work because get component will get me the components attached to this particular game object to which this script is attached. This is attached to the background and my obstacles. So I don't want the script is attached to the game object called player. See, in my player I have this script player controller. So I have to get first of all go to this player game object and then get my uh, what get my reference to this player controller script. So what I'll do is first of all I'll do uh, the capital G game object. Then I can find a game object by name, find, and I can pass the name. Say the name is what player. The name is player of my game object. It will find that game object for me, and once it finds the game object, then I can get the component of type player controller from there, and that's it. So it is literally doing, okay, go to this game object, get this component and save it in this variable. That's it in the start function. Now we're using this variable. I can call all the functions, all the properties which are of type public in this one, right? So now I can do is in the update function, I want to make it move left. Let me write it in comment. Move left only if the game is not over. Okay, so what I can do is I can do if I can just go to script player controller dot is game over. See, it is available here. Is not equal to false. Is equal to false. Basically, it is the game is running. If this thing is false, then only you move everything left. Otherwise, stop. Right. So let's see. If my now what we have done is we have created a variable of type player controller. Basically, we want to capture the reference of this script, right? So I've created a variable of type player controller. The name of is script underscore player controller. In the start function, we actually got the reference from the player game object. We are asking Unity game object. You find me a game object which is the of name player, and if once you find it, you get a component of type player controller from that and store it in this variable. And in the update function, what I'm doing is I'm accessing this particular script player controller, checking if this thing is over or not. If this is not over, game is not over. Basically, game over is false. Then you keep everything moving towards the left. If this thing is not true, basically the game is over. Then nothing will happen because there is this condition will not be met. That means nothing will happen. There is nothing else written in the update function. So let's see if my game gets over. This should not move left. So everything which has the script move left attached should stop. Let's see. So let me jump this one and let me jump this one as well. Now I'll not jump. Let's see what. See, everything stopped. But the only thing that did not stop is spawning of obstacles. See, my obstacles are keep on piling up, but they are not moving left, right? But still the obstacles are spawning. So we have to use the similar thing to actually stop the obstacles from spawning. Okay, so similar thing we'll do in this script spawn manager. I'll here also I will create a variable of type script. So I'll do say private player controller. Let's call it script underscore player controller, right? And then we want to get its reference in the start function only. So before the invoke repeating thing, we want to do it, or we can do it after invoke repeating, doesn't matter, right? So I can get script player controller. How do I do that? I'll do game object, find the game object of type of name player, okay, spellings. Then once you find it, you get me the component of type player controller from there, and then store it in this particular variable. And here in this spawn obstacle function, what I'll do is I'll write the same logic just like this. If this thing is false, then you spawn, otherwise stop. That's it. So maybe just copy this one. This will work. Okay, so I'll write this one. Maybe I'll add one more bracket. I'll just right click and I'll do format document. Now everything will become beautiful. Right. Okay, cool. Okay, so just the same thing. Basically, if this thing is not over, then you instantiate, otherwise don't. Let's test this out if this works. And then we have just one more thing before. Okay, maybe we'll do it till here only in this script. So if I click play, obstacles are spawning. I am jumping. I'll jump again. This time I'll not jump. Everything should stop. No obstacle should be spawned. Let's wait. Let's wait. Nothing is getting spawned. Okay, fine. So this is fine up till here, right? One last thing remains, which is we want to actually remove, just like we did in the last class, last unit, where we were destroying the game objects once they go beyond the bound of the player region or the view. Right here also, we want to destroy the obstacles once they go beyond my player. Okay. So what I can do is I can go to my move left script. I can create a new variable, let's say called public float. I can call it say left bound because the obstacles are moving only in the left direction. I can give it a number, say -15, right? Or whatever, -15,
So
or I can say, yes.
I have a doubt, like, do we have to use the get component here, like, because actually we gave the player component class there, so can't we
Yes.
uh,
You have the
directly
player component
control
class
it
where
out? Yeah, we have already defined
this
a
thing.
variable like uh, that move left, yeah.
Hmm.
Player controller script, player controller variable there. So can't we uh, get that um,
You are saying without doing this?
yeah, without doing that, the get
Let's
component
try
thing,
it out.
because we have,
I'll show what will happen. I have commented out. Now we are not getting reference. We're directly using it over here, right? Now let's see what happens. I'll just maybe define this one first. Right, that's 15, and that's it. Okay. So now I'm not getting the reference from the player thing, and we are making it say if this thing is false, then you do this. Okay.
yeah.
Now let's see what happens. So it should not stop, or it should throw up an error. Because just like everything, see, there is an error. It will not work. It will keep on spawning, but this thing will not work. The move left. Now I'll show you what is the error. Same error. Object reference not set to the instance of an object. So basically, C# is an object-oriented programming language. So for everything, you need an object, actual object. This is just a class, right? And to
Okay,
but to actually capture something, just like we saw in the spawn manager, if you do not attach actual prefab, this thing will not work, right? So similarly, it needs a object to work. Object basically an instance of that script, which is should be there in the game somewhere. Okay. So this thing means that this line is getting, so this all the definitions is there, but the actual behavior is being controlled by this game object because it is in the game and the script is attached, and how things are happening in the game, the variables are changing, right? So if you define this as a class somewhere in your code repository somewhere else, then how it will know that when the game over becomes true, when the is ground becomes false? That is happening because this script is attached to an actual game object, and this game object is changing as per the user input or as per the conditions of the game, so that these variables are changing based on the behavior, right?
Okay.
So that's why we always need a object reference, right? So you will see this error
Okay.
multiple times, right? So let me
Okay.
clear this. And very good question, because this is already defined. This is a class. Why can't we use it directly, right? So we are able to use other classes like game object because they are holding all the static properties which are not changing, right? So this rigid body class, if you look at the properties that it has, they are all get and set. So basically, mostly they are static. So they are not changing dynamically as the game happens. Okay. But here, the game over will change based on the a player colliding with the obstacle. The is on ground will change based on the user pressing the space bar, right? So that's why we cannot do it without having an actual object reference. Just the last thing, I want to destroy the objects once they go beyond this any negative number, because my player is standing at the x is equal to 0. So let's make it -5 only. Okay. So as soon as my player goes beyond say -5, I want to change destroy it. Okay. So what I'll do is in the move left script, this is fine. And I want to also test the position. So I'll do if transform of this particular object dot position dot x is less than the left bound. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to destroy the game object. Now there is a problem with this thing, and you should tell me what is the problem. Game object. Okay, I'll just write game object without the quotes. So this game object with a small g is referring to the game object on which the script is attached. Okay. So what I'm doing is if my position of the game object becomes less than the left bound, you destroy the game object. And I'm saying there's a problem with this thing. You'll let me know what is the problem. So let's see that in action. If I click play, then everything will start spawning. I can jump, obstacle is there, and as soon as my obstacle goes beyond 5, see everything has stopped. The game, okay, the game got over. I have to survive at least a few times before the game gets over. This is fine, this is also fine, this is also fine. So the obstacles are getting destroyed, right? And my game got over here. Now my background, the X is okay, X is -10. Right. Why we are not facing that problem? We should face if it is less than -5. Why? My background is never going to -5. Okay, yeah. So the problem that I expected was that since this move left script is attached to both my background and the obstacle, so both should not get destroyed. With this particular code, if my left bound, if my particular game object crosses this left bound, then this line will destroy all the objects on which this script is attached. So basically, currently it is not happening because my left bound is because my background is never crossing the uh, left bound, but it should cross. Let me just check that. We have to check it, look at the x value should go beyond -5. Okay, it is not going. No, it is going. Why it is not getting destroyed then? Okay, so maybe if we do it say -15. Okay, left bound -5. So basically, the better way to do is I'll just put a check that and game object compare tag and game object dot compare tag. The tag is obstacle. So basically obstacle. So basically if my position is beyond the left bound and the current game object whose position is beyond the left bound is obstacle, then only destroy the game object. So this thing will not otherwise this should destroy the background object is as well, but it is not happening right now. Maybe the limit is that one. Limit is because on background we have this thing speed and left. Okay, the limit is -15 here. So if I do it -5 and then I run it, let me save it. I'll just remove this line of code just to show you what I was tending to say. Let's make it -5. If I run it, then the background will also get destroyed because the same script is attached to two different objects. One is the obstacle, one is the background. So let me survive the first few times. Yeah, right. See, the background also destroyed. So the obstacles are getting destroyed, it is fine, but the background is also getting destroyed. So to avoid this, what we have to do this one more check, that the obstacle, the game object we are talking is obstacle, and the position is beyond the left bound. So now if I do this, this should work. So we're already beyond the timeline, the time period for this class, but it's good. Okay. So I can jump, the background gets on repeating, and only if my the obstacles keep on destroying. See, you only see one obstacle. The previous one got destroyed. So this is good. We learned a lot of new things. First of all, we learned about this rigid body, how to apply this particular force, get the component of the rigid body, make the player jump in a physics way. We learned about the physics mode, right? Then we learned about these tags, okay, how to compare, how to find game objects by their name. We did it in this particular script. I think move left, how to find a game object by their name, how to use their tags to compare whether, say, suppose it's a power up, then it should do power up is equal to true. And if it's an obstacle, we are doing game over is equal to true. If it is ground, we are doing this check. So this kind of check, it is really good to use tags, right? And we also learned about anything else. Yeah, most importantly, we learned how to reference a variable which is part of a separate script in a completely different script, and how can we trigger some actions based on a variable which is part of some other game object. This will be frequently used in a proper game that you will make. Okay, so with this, let's stop today's class. Tomorrow we'll start from 3.3. We have finished up to 3.2. Destroy the obstacle that exit the bounds, right? We will start from this tomorrow. We will add some game effects, animations and effects. Okay, we'll look at that. So with this, let's
Vinay,
finish the class. Yes, please go ahead.
yeah, I had a doubt.
Okay.
I have added rigid body to all my. I'm way behind, but I am doing it. So there's these
Hmm.
objects. I have added box collider. I have added rigid body, given it mass, given the go move left script, and it is
Yes.
moving left. But for
Huh.
some reason, it's falling through the ground. My player isn't falling through the ground, but the objects are all falling through the ground.
So same thing. No, we saw that the obstacle, we have to spawn it at a. So maybe in the inspector window, if you look at the obstacle spawn manager, the spawn position we have defined. No, here spawn manager. This is the vector 3 dot spawn position. So it was public. If it is public, then you see if it is this one only. If the y is 0, then it is spawning at the halfway level of the ground. So that's why, because of the rigid body thing, it is falling through. Okay, and
I'm
just check
before
this
the
thing.
spawn manager. Like I have not reached the spawn manager yet. Even
Okay,
before
so
that, I have just yeah.
then just make sure your obstacle is placed on top of the floor. So if you go to prefabs, place an obstacle. See, it should be a bit above the ground. That's it. Or on top of the ground will also work. So if you run this, so this the manual obstacle, or like you are spawning on your own.
Manual. I have placed it above the ground, like it's at quite a height, but it's just breaking through the
Falling through
ground
the
and
ground.
yeah.
Is it? What is the weight of your obstacle in the rigid body?
90, 80, around that, 80, 90.
90 kgs, and it is falling
Yeah,
through. Maybe
yeah.
try placing it close to the ground, because if I make it say 100 as well, for me it is not. It will not go beyond that. But surely my player will become a paratha. Yeah. So try this. Try
I have, see, I have placed three different objects at three different heights, all of them
all
above the
three.
ground. Yeah,
All of
all
them are
three of
falling
them.
through.
Yeah. I'll share my screen as well, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll show it to
Share.
you.
Share.
Share. Okay. Yeah. So I have made the prefab part, but still it's not like I haven't done the spawn manager. So there are three
Click on the
objects and
ground
all three
once.
of everyone's in just falls down. And if I click on the ground, you can see there's a huge box collider already there.
Box collider. Okay.
And the player is also standing there only. For some reason, it's and also when I was trying it out, it's not colliding with the player either. Even though all three objects have the
No, click on the box collider. Let me see the bounds of the box collider. In the same barrel 01. No, click on the obstacle. Any of the obstacles in the inspector window. Scroll down to box collider. Click on edit collider.
yeah,
Click on
Yeah.
edit collider.
yeah.
Fine only. Size is this one. Includes layer discrete. Now run it again. Are there any? You move left. Show me your move left script.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the move left script.
Vector 3 dot left. Time. Click on the inspector. Okay. What have you written? 19 there.
Oh, I think it's a mistake.
But it is still running. No. Or were there any
It's
errors?
still there. No errors. There was one because I forgot the semicolon, but that was it. I fixed it and then it's
Run it.
still going through the ground and falling.
Can you press F now? Press F. Okay, Z is not changing, but Y and Z is changing. Okay, click on stop. Try placing them closer to the game object. Overrides barrel. Try keeping it closer to the ground.
I'll do that. Second.
Yeah. Just moving left now. That's it.
Yeah, hello. Vinay. I think I was also facing the same problem. So I think what you have to do is uncheck the use gravity from the obstacle.
No. That should not be there.
I
No,
did
I
it
did
right
that.
If
I
you
also
uncheck the
tried
use
the
gravity,
unchecking the use gravity, but
See, it is still going down. Okay.
I
So
did
what
it and
about
I got the same
ground
problem.
mesh collider should be there, right?
So
Or
ground there is box collider is there. On the ground, the box collider is there.
Okay.
There is no
It is
rigid body
there.
to the ground. There is no
Why?
rigid body to the ground.
That is not required. Rigid body is not required. Otherwise, the ground will fall through. Rigid body and the
yeah,
ground will
I
move as
applied
when the
rigid
player is
body and
jumping.
the ground fell down. Yeah, I tried that as well.
Yeah. So you have to, and whenever the player lands, it will experience some force that is not required. Okay. Maybe go to your move left script again. And your is showing me center. Wait. That is select your game objects. All the three obstacles. Select your obstacles. This is fine. Select all the obstacles and select on top left, just below scene. Top left side, scene window. Below that you see pivot. You choose the center. Click on that. Choose center. Now run it once.
Yeah.
Just still going down. Maybe just show me the properties, rigid body. Show one by one. First of all, show me for the barrel. Let me also check in the resources, course library, obstacles. You have barrel 01. Okay. Then scroll down, rigid body mass is 40, drag is 0. Okay, automatic tensor. Are you referencing it anywhere in your script? Are there multiple move left script?
I have
For
one
me.
move left script and I have added it to these three things like I did for that animal, feeding the animal thing.
Okay.
Just like I did it.
Transform or translate, everything looks fine only, but why it is going down then?
Should I refresh it again? Because in this game, only in the first part, the game window was not there, but then it started. And
Scroll.
Okay, what is that?
Okay, close is trigger. Why have you done that? Is
What is
thing?
Vinay? What is in hierarchy? I can see after player obstacle less. What is that?
it's the empty game object.
Just
over
to
here.
differentiate,
Yeah,
to
differentiate
okay.
it. Yeah.
like organize everything nicely. That's it.
Okay.
Should I not do S trigger?
Let me just check. Because no, you have to do it is trigger. You should not do is trigger. Then physics get avoided if you do it is trigger.
Okay,
Just
remove it
remove.
for one and the rest of
see.
it's still there. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
works. So basically, is trigger. So it is avoiding the physics thing. But even if it avoids the physics thing, it should at least go straight. No, because nothing is there. But what you use gravity is functional. So remove the is trigger from all of them. It will work fine now. But with is trigger, what it says ignored by the physics engine. And you should keep moving forward left. Because it was is trigger, that's why it was not hitting your obstacles. Object. See, now your player fell down. And it passed through them because the weight of the obstacles is also quite high. And I think your player is of 1 kg or what?
50. A player is 50 and everything is
The
from
obstacle.
60 to 90.
That's right. So they are just hitting him over. And our collision detection is discrete. So it is not continuous. So basically it is doing at some interval of time, physics time. Right. So that's why we were having this effect where our car was going through the obstacles in the very first unit. Because the type
Okay, so
of
if I
collision detection that we're
change,
using, if you make it continuous, it will become way more realistic, but it will be very compute intensive. So at each frame, it is doing your detection. Still the same behavior, yeah.
I'll just reduce the weight probably.
Yeah.
I had one more doubt. It was here, controller. Yeah, what does this mean?
What? So
I've
it is saying physics dot gravity is equal to physics dot gravity multiplied by gravity modifier. It's just a shorthand. Like we do plus plus, no, I plus plus, or I
Okay.
plus is equal to 1 or 2. Just like we did in the previous class where we were incrementing the timer by 1. So it
Yeah.
says physics gravity is equal to gravity multiplied by gravity modifier. That's it. Shorthand for doing that.
Okay, and physics dot gravity, that means physics is some predefined class and
It's a
gravity
unity
is
physics.
inside it?
Unity physics. Yes. So for you, it is
Okay.
not there for some reason. But otherwise, for me, if I control click on physics, it will take me to the physics definition of the physics class, and you can see all the internal functions. So physics is a class pre-built in Unity, and it has all sort of these functions: gravity, drag, angular drag, friction. All the physics-related things are there, part of the bigger physics class. So basically, it holds all the functionalities of uh, the the science wala physics. It has all the properties which you can use in the game or modify them.
Okay, thank you. I'll stop.
Okay.
Why that
So-
is trigger affected the downward movement, the is trigger thing?
So
The same.
what is trigger does that it will be used for triggering just an event, but it will be avoided by the physics thing. Okay. So suppose you are spawning, so you are making a power up kind of a thing, like collect the stars or the coins. So when you go through them, you don't want it to hit or maybe apply some force. You just want to trigger that, okay, increase my score by 1 or increase my stars bullet score by 10 or whatever. So for those kind of behavior, you can make it as a is trigger true, because you still want to detect the collision, but you don't want to do the collision in a physics manner. So then in that case, you do it box failure to be true. Sorry, not the is trigger to be true.
I didn't got that. Like if we want to do the get the colliding input from like the objects, we should turn on the is trigger, right? From the
If you just want to check whether it's something collided, you don't want to apply any kind of force or physics nature, right? Suppose you are collecting points, then you trigger this. Or says you are driving a car, you want to collect fuel, then you just want to trigger, okay, my car went through the fuel icon, increase my fuel. That's it. You don't want to push or hit the icon in a actual physics manner. then you do it is trigger. That's it.
Okay.
So if you just want to get the box collider interaction, not the physics level interaction, then you do it is trigger. If you want a physics kind of behavior, like your car is hitting the petrol icon, then the petrol icon should get hit, or maybe the momentum transfer thing happen. Then you do not do is trigger. Then it will be taking care of. It will be uh, taking into account the mass of the particular object on which the box slider is attached. What is the angular drag and some other properties. Okay, all these will take place if the is trigger is not checked. If it is checked, then that means you just want to uh, record when something hits that collider. That's it, and then trigger something from there. Say increase the score or decrease the score, decrease the health, or send a
Turned on
message.
and physics thing won't be calculated. It's not like that. It will be calculated.
So physics
Like
will be ignored. Physics will not take place. Only trigger. It will be just a trigger. You can get that on collision enter. You can use all of those collision events to trigger something. So if you hover your mouse over is trigger, it will tell you if enabled, this control collider is used for triggering events and is ignored by the physics engine. So any variable which is there on the inspector, if you hover your mouse on top of it, it will give you a small definition.
Okay.
But what if we want both of them?
So anyway, currently also you are getting the trigger, the collider enter function, right? So either you want both of them, then you do not check the is trigger functionality, right? Because currently also in my, if you have followed the lecture, I'm doing that on collision enter. If the other object is obstacle, then you do game over, right? So collision thing is anyway enabled. Only if you want to not use the physics thing, then you make it is trigger. Now you can ask if I will not add rigid body if I don't want to use it. But sometimes in the game you want, like for some of the time you want the object to behave in a physics manner. Then during the game time only you can do it is trigger is equal to true, so that it is not handling the physics behavior. And then maybe after some time you can again do from the script is trigger false, so that it starts acting in a physics way, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So suppose you are making a game where you want to enable the player to fly in between if he catches that particular power up. Then if you so you want to control the player movement based on the keyboard, and it will be happening in the sky. So Z will become some value, but you don't want the gravity to pull him down. So for that particular instance, till that power up is acting upon the player, then you do is trigger is equal to false. And as soon as it comes is trigger is equal to true. And as soon as your power up is finishes, say for a time period of 10 seconds, then once it finishes, then you write is trigger is equal to false, because now you want a player to behave in a this thing in a physics manner.
Yeah. Yeah, on the ground. Okay. Yeah, got
Okay.
it.
So can you get to that final code like that destroy we used to and the background and that rocks?
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Yeah, so it should be visible now. You want to see the destroy background, right?
Yeah,
Move
destroy
left.
background. That's clear. So in this actually what we are doing, like destroy the image as well as the obstacle when only the collision occurs, right? You will destroy, right?
So we are only checking. So we are checking this condition. So basically, my move left script is attached to two things. One is to my obstacle, one the background, and my obstacle. They both have this script
Yeah.
attached, right?
Yeah.
So if I write this thing transform.position, this thing will refer to all the game objects, on which the script is attached, right? But with this line, I'm making sure that this thing should only work for the obstacle game object, not for any other object, right? So with this, I'm checking if the both conditions should be true to make this happen. So basically, it is checking if the transfer position is less than the left bound, and the game object that we're talking about is of type obstacle or is an obstacle, then only you destroy the game object.
So this won't destroy the
Background.
that row. No,
Yes.
This script won't destroy the obstacle
Background.
when it is out of the
No.
view.
Yes.
Okay,
So it will destroy all the obstacles which are out of the left bound. Only those obstacles will be destroyed, not the background. It will not
right.
destroy the background. It will destroy the obstacles only, because this thing is true only for obstacles. So game object compare tag. So if the game object is the background, then this thing will become false. If this thing becomes false, the whole thing will become false. It will not go into this loop. Okay. This will only become true when this game object is an obstacle and it is beyond the left bound, and the game object, the tag is also obstacle. Then only these both will be true and this thing will take place.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So basically, if my game object is obstacle, then only it will enter this loop. For all the other game objects, it will not enter.
So the game object or compare tag obstacle will be true if it is not hit the ground. Hit the player, right?
So suppose we have two more game objects, some obstacle 3, obstacle 4, and the tag is obstacle 3 and obstacle 4. They are also having this move left script, so they will also not get destroyed. Only the game object whose tag is obstacle will get destroyed once its position in the x direction goes beyond the left bound. Right? Are you getting my point?
No.
So basically, we are checking. This is my condition. So first of all, if my x, whatever my game object on which this script is attached, I will check its position, the x component. If it is less than the left bound, means it is in the left hand side, negative left hand side. So in my left hand, so suppose this is my obstacle. Currently, the x position is, if I look at transform, is 17.93. It will start moving. It will go towards this. Now it becomes say -5 or -15. At this particular point, I want to check compare the tag. So now this thing is true, and let me move my background as well. So I will move my background also to beyond 15. So let's just check the x direction. Now it is say beyond 15. Okay, no, not beyond 15. Now it is beyond 15. Now both these game objects, I will check. Now it will check the if loop. So let us first check for the background. For background, transform dot position is less than left bound. My left bound is -5, or maybe I think it should be checked over here. It is -5. It is beyond the -5. Then this thing is true. This thing is true, right? Then I will check this condition whether the compare tag is obstacle. So I'll check my tag, background tag, it is untagged. The tag is untagged basically. So this thing will become false. Now this thing becomes false, but if my if condition has a and condition, right? So this code will run only if this complete condition is true. And for this complete condition to be true, this should be true and this should be true together, because it's an and condition, right? I want both of these to happen. Now comes the case of my obstacle. I'll select my obstacle. The x position is beyond -5. Then this thing is true, and I will compare the tag. So the tag of this is obstacle. This is also obstacle. That means this is also true. This is also true. That means the complete condition is true. Then I will trigger this event. Otherwise, for the previous case, it will not go inside this, because this thing becomes false. This whole thing will become false. This will never happen. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So basically, it's an and condition. You have an or condition as well. If an or condition is used, if any one is true, this will work. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, guys, try to do it until this point, and tomorrow we will see how to add visual effects, how to add sound effects to our game, and animate our character, make it walk and all. Okay. Okay, then it's way beyond our regular time. So you guys go grab a dinner and we will catch up tomorrow.
Cool, cool. Yeah.
Okay, Professor Gautam. Bye bye.
Okay. Yeah. Bye, bye,
Good
bye.
night.
Good night. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.